Hello guys, in today's video we are going to be recreating an Alex Hormozy thumbnail. Now this style of thumbnail can similarly be described as a Twitter/X thumbnail, in which case there will be a subject and will be a tweet next to that person. So without wasting any more of your time, let's get straight into the video. Okay guys, so you know the drill, so let's click on new file. We're going to keep the width to 1920, height 1080, and keep all the other options the same and click create. Okay guys, so I've just added a gradient to my background, and how you can do that is you can go ahead to the adjustment layers here and you can click on gradient. Once you do that, the gradient fill box will be open like so, and you will just need to copy the settings you see on screen in order to emulate the same result. I'll provide you with the hex codes down below. So as you can see guys, if I just open up this gradient panel here, as you can see the darker yellow is set to location 0 and the brighter yellow is set to location 100. Okay guys, so I'm going to add some texture to this background now because it's looking quite flat. So let's go ahead and fix that right now. So what I will do before I do anything is I will right click on this gradient fill layer and I will go ahead and convert to smart object. So let's click that, and now we can go ahead and add some noise. So you just click on filter and you go to noise and then add noise. We are going to keep the settings to what we have on screen, so 7.16. You can play around with this and whatever looks good to you, you can go ahead and do, but I'm going to keep it to uniform, keep monochromatic checked, and just click OK. Now, as you can see guys, we have a nice textured background. As you can see guys, when I zoom in, we've created a grainy texture on our background. It's not looking so flat anymore. So moving on to the next step. So as you can see on screen right here, I have added an image of Alex Hormozy into this canvas. Now finding an image of this guy took me ages because for some reason he just doesn't have a lot of face pics. There was a lot of topless pics of him, Alex Hormozy. I don't know what you're trying to do with that, but relax. Make a couple more face pics for us. There's enough of the other stuff on the internet. But yeah, I've just got an image of Alex Hormozy here, as you can see on screen. I'm just going to make some adjustments to this image to enhance it. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So the first technique here I'm going to do to enhance this image is I'm going to use the dodge and burn effect. Now, if you've watched my Mr. Beast face effect video, you will know how to go ahead and do this, but I will repeat the steps right here. So again, we are just going to go ahead and create a curves layer like so. We are going to add a clipping mask to this by pressing down Alt or Option. And we are going to duplicate this layer. So we are going to have two layers, and let's just make sure that this one is also clipped to the original layer. So that's the Hormozy layer. And we are just going to name these highlights. And we are going to name the other layer shadows. So let's just make sure that the highlights layer is selected. And we are going to make a point and then drag up. So that's just going to increase the general brightness. It's increasing the highlights of the image. So let's just do that. And then we will click again on the shadows layer now. And we will just do the inverse. So basically we are just doing the opposite of what we just did. So we'll make a point and then we will drag down. So that's just going to increase the shadows. Something like that should be fine. Then we are just going to click on both of these layer masks. So we are clicking on the highlights layer mask and then we will press Command or Control I. Once we do that, we will also do the same for the shadows layer. So Command or Control I on the layer mask. And now basically all of these effects are hidden. They're no longer visible on screen. So let's go back to our highlights layer mask. And we are going to make sure that the color is set to white. So have the color set to white here. And we're just going to press B for the brush tool now. And we will set the flow to 10%. So do that. Let's now zoom in to the face and we will now paint in wherever there are highlights, because we are on the highlights layer. Wherever you see highlights on screen, you just simply paint over those to enhance it. So let's just decrease the brush size. So let me just do that. We're just going to paint over where we see brightness. So let's just decrease the brush size even more. Get this point here. Yeah. While we're at it, we can also go ahead and increase the brightness of the teeth. So we could probably just brighten these. So just paint over it like so. Let's get some of these highlights. Let's make sure to get the eyes as well. We can increase the brightness of those eyes. Let's also go down here. We can see there's some more bright places, bright spots rather. We'll get those. And again, you can spend as much time as you want on this, but I'm doing this fairly quickly for the tutorial. So spend as long as you need and do it until you get a good result. Yep, that's looking pretty good to me. Now we are going to click on the shadows layer mask and we will change the flow to 5%. So let's do that. And now we are doing the same thing. We're just painting over the shadows because we want to enhance them. So let's just paint over any dark areas in order to enhance them. I like painting over the hair, so let me just do that. Sort of darkens it and increases the contrast. So let's just do that. Get this beard. Yep. Let me just zoom in a bit. Let's get these nostrils. Also get the eyebrows. There's some more shadows here, so let's just enhance those. And you get the gist of this, guys. So again, like I said, just spend as much time as you need until you are happy with the final result. So now if I just toggle between before and after of both the highlights and shadow layers, as you can see, this is before and this is after. As you can see, the subject pops out a lot more. Okay guys, so what I will now do is I'm going to go ahead and smoothen the skin. So what we will do is make sure that you convert your subject into a smart object if you haven't done already. All you need to do that is just right click and then convert to smart object. So I've already done it, but it says convert to smart object here. And so once you've clicked that, we are going to go to filter, camera, raw filter. And what we can do from here is we can do some adjustments. So what I'm going to do here, guys, is I'm going to go to effects and I'm just going to decrease the texture like so. As you can see, we have sort of smoothened the skin, but we've also smoothened the whole subject as a whole. So what we need to do is we will click OK, but what we will do is we will use this layer mask now and we will invert it. So press Command or Control I to do that. And we are going to paint in the smooth effect only onto the skin. So let's just do that. So I'm just going to zoom in. We are going to make sure that we have the white color selected. Let's set the flow to 100. And now with the brush tool, we are just going to paint over only the skin. And as you can see, it's smoothing the skin really well. So let's just do that. Oops, just got a bit of the eyebrow. Don't want to do that. Sort of removes the wrinkles. Looks pretty good. And so yeah guys, here as you can see, we are removing a lot of the texture from the skin and it's smoothening the skin as a result. So let's just continue. Let's get the neck like so. Now if I zoom out, guys, as you can see, if I just turn this layer mask off for a second, this is what it would look like if I've smoothened everything. And now as you can see, the sharpness has come back and the skin is the only thing that has been smoothened. If I remove the camera raw filter as a whole, as you can see, this is before and this is after. We've smoothened the skin out very nicely. Okay guys, but we're not done yet. So what I will do is I'm going to have this layer selected, so the subject layer, and I'm now going to right click and rasterize the layer so that we have now flattened the effects all onto the subject. So essentially now all that camera raw filter stuff and all those adjustments we made are now onto this subject, and as you can see, it no longer shows any sort of filter attached to it. We've simply flattened the image and we just had this layer. If anyone saw this from this point, they would think that this would be the original image. So now just make sure that the subject is selected and we are going to now right click again and convert to smart object once again, and we will now go to filter and camera raw filter. Now what I want to do, guys, is I want to increase the overall sharpness of the subject. So I'm just going to be in the effects tab and I'm just going to increase the clarity like so. So we don't want to increase the texture because that will just bring back what we try to get rid of, which is the skin smoothness. But just a bit of clarity helps with the face and making it pop out a little better. So let's just also increase the sharpness. So let's go to detail and increase the sharpening like so. So let's take this up to about 20 pixels and then we can click OK. Let's now just add this into a group to keep things organized. So I'm just going to hold down Shift, click on the Alex Hormozy layer and then hold down Shift on the top layer and then just press Command or Control G. So that's just going to group the subject into one layer. So everything attached to this subject will be grouped. And let's just name this Alex Hormozy like so. Yeah, okay guys, so I want the subject, which is Alex Hormozy, to be pointing towards the tweet, which will be over here. Now in this image, the subject was not pointing towards anything. It was just simply a picture of his face. So what we will need to do in this case, guys, is we need to find an image of a pointing finger. This is a strategy used in a lot of popular thumbnails, in which case you would think that the actual finger or the hand holding a phone, for example, was their own, but it's simply just an image which they found off of the internet. But what they have done is they have color corrected and also placed the hand in the right position to make it look as if it's part of the subject. So as you can see, guys, I have an image here of a pointing finger, and I found this on cleanpng.com, so I'm just going to link this in the description down below. It's a really good website to find a lot of free PNGs that you can use, although always make sure to give credit to the creators, but also do your own due diligence in trying to find out if you can use the image or not for your own personal work. So I'm just going to drag this into our original document, like so. Press yes, and now I'm just going to press Command or Control T. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. No, actually before that, we are going to right click and convert to smart object so that we maintain the quality of the image. And then we're going to press Command or Control T, and I'm just going to resize this to be a little smaller. Okay, now we're just going to align it in such a way so that it's pointing towards the actual tweet. Now, as you can see, this is sort of the opposite way, so we need to flip it. So let's press Command or Control T, right click, and then we can flip it horizontal like so. Then it's just a matter of sort of changing the position of it. So we will rotate it, and now we will try and get it into position and make it look realistic. Yeah, something like this should do for now. Now there are a couple more adjustments that we need to make, but at its core, this is the base principle that we need to follow with. We need to have an image of a finger which is pointing towards the tweet. So here you can see, guys, we have an image of Alex Hormozy, and because we've placed it like so, it now looks as if it's part of the subject. But I know you guys have better attention to detail than this, so I'm pretty sure you guys are seeing that this color of the skin here is not matching with the finger. So we need to make some adjustments in order to match everything together. So as you can see, this finger right here is quite dull, and we could probably add a bit more saturation and contrast to this hand. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Now before we do anything, let's just quickly rename this to hand. And now let's just make some adjustments to the hand. So we are going to have it selected, and then we are going to go to hue and saturation, and we're going to create a clipping mask to the hand layer. So we are going to press Alt or Option, and we are going to click in between the two layers in order to do that. And let's now just adjust the saturation and sort of try and get it to match with the skin tone. So as you can see, that is pretty much as we actually need to do. So plus 10 would do the trick. We also now need to increase the brightness of this hand. So what we can do is we can actually, as it's already a smart object, go to Filter, Camera Raw Filter, and let's just first add some contrast. So let's go to Light and increase the contrast like so. Like that. Yep. We can probably increase the whites to sort of bring out a bit more brightness in the image. We can also increase the highlights like so. Let's also go to curve now and create a S curve to give more contrast like so. And let's just click OK for now and have a look at what we have done. So as you can see, guys, it's pretty much matching with the skin tone of Alex Hormozy. Now you guys could play around with this even more and do it until you're happy and satisfied, but for me this is looking pretty good in the first go. So I'm going to keep it at that for now. Actually, in saying that, let me just make one quick adjustment. So we're going to go to hue and saturation. I'm going to click on this little icon right here, and I'm now just going to source any color. So we want to source this orangey reddish color, and I want to just decrease the saturation of that because it's quite strong to something like -10. Now if I toggle between before and after, so before and after, as you can see, it sort of just decreased the red tint of that skin, so it's more of a natural color, matching much better than it was before. This is before and this is after. I think this looks better. Now there is one more glaringly obvious adjustment that I need to make. As you can see right here, this finger is way too long. Not to say that you can't have a long finger, guys, but just for aesthetic purposes, it really just looks out of balance with the hand. So we're just going to decrease the size of this finger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the lasso tool selected, and I'm now just going to decrease the size of this finger, and I'll show you how to do that. So let's just zoom in with the lasso tool, make sure that the hand layer is selected. So I'm just going to make a selection like so, and I'm just going to press V, which is the shortcut for the move tool, and I'm just going to bring this finger in ever so slightly, or this part of the finger rather. then press Command or Control D, and then we're just going to do the exact same thing for this section right here. So I'm going to have the lasso tool selected, and I'm now going to make a selection like so. Then press V again for the move tool, and then we can just move this like so. Now press Command and Control D to deselect, and as you can see guys, we have now decreased the length of the finger. Okay guys, so now I'm just going to do the exact same thing we did for the face. So I'm going to do a dodge and burn effect. Now I'm just going to speed this up because you already know how to do this. But again, you are just going to paint over the highlights and paint over the shadows. Make 2 separate curves layers and just go ahead and follow the procedure we did before. Okay guys, so as you can see, it's all coming together. Now with the hand, don't worry so much about where the finger is pointing at the moment. We can always come back and adjust that after we have added in the tweets. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so let's pick the rectangle tool and let's create the text box now. So we are essentially creating the rectangle in which the tweet will be inside of. So let's just create the rectangle like so to something like this. Maybe we can increase it a bit more. Yeah, and we can adjust this, so do not worry about it. If you do not get it right first time, you can always adjust it. So let's just press enter for now, and we are going to place this behind the subject, so underneath Alex Hormozi like so. Then we are going to now double click here, and we are going to add a gradient overlay. So let's click on gradient overlay, and we are going to have the gradient to a pure black right here, and on the other end we are going to have a very dark grey, and I'll provide you guys with the hex code for that down below. Click OK, and just make sure to copy all the settings you see on screen. Keep the style to linear and keep the angle to 111. We want the dark grey to sort of come from this angle and sort of gradually get darker as it gets closer to the subject. Okay guys, so the next step will be to round the corners of the rectangle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the rectangle layer, make sure it's selected, and we are going to go into these options right here. As you can see, this is where you can round the corners. Make sure that you click on this chain icon so that when you adjust anything, so for example if I put this to 5 pixels, it automatically adds the same input value into all of the corners. So I'm just going to put this to 75 pixels because we want this rectangle to have a nice round edge. Okay, looking good. So now I'm just going to go back to the rectangle and I just want to resize this until I'm satisfied. So I'll just press Command or Control T, and I will just scale this until I get a good result. I'll be right back in just a moment. Okay guys, so this looks pretty good to me. So all I did was just press Command or Control T, and again, you don't have to scale this proportionately. You can just simply drag it up and down like this in order to increase the height. But this is what I like, and I'm gonna keep it to what I have right here. Okay guys, but we're not that boring, so let's just go ahead and spice this up a little more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a stroke to this rectangle. So let's click on stroke, and we are going to have the stroke set to white. Make sure to also increase this to about 4, like so. That looks pretty good to me. Okay, the next step will be to add in outer glow, and this is what's really going to bring this text box to life. So again, make sure that the rectangle layer is selected, and we are going to double click and then click on outer glow. To achieve this really nice glow effect, you will need to have the blend mode to linear dodge add. Make sure that the color of the glow is set to white and copy all the options you see on screen and click OK. Okay guys, so now it's time to populate the text box. So again, we are trying to emulate a tweet. So if you're familiar with what a tweet looks like, you will always have a profile picture of the person that you are referring to, and you will have their handle right next to that. Whether they are verified or not is another question. In this case, we will add a verified badge because Alex Hormozi is verified, certified boss, and finally it will also include the main text, which we are going to keep very bold in order to stand out. So let's go ahead and now focus on getting all these elements together. So I've gone to Alex Hormozi's Twitter page and I've just simply screenshotted his profile picture. Now in this case, we do not want the background part, we only want the circle with Alex Hormozy inside of it. So the quickest way that we can make a selection of this will be as follows. So I'll just show you how to do this right now. So before we do anything else, let's just drag this into our document like so. Let's just keep this right here, click yes, okay. And I'm just going to zoom in like so. And we are going to use an ellipse. This is the quickest way to make a selection of this, and you can just apply this to any of the future thumbnails you do. So once you have the ellipse tool selected, hold down shift in the center, or it doesn't have to be completely accurate, but sort of relatively in the center, and then hold down alt, and then just increase it till you get a roughly similar size as the original circle. Something like this should be fine. Let's decrease the opacity of this to about 40, that should do the trick. And then we are just going to match the size of this circle. Make sure you don't get any white parts in your circle. You can also change the color of this to a orange or something, just to make it more visible and easy to see. Yeah, and we are just going to expand, making sure not to get any white parts in our circle. From this point, we are going to have our circle layer highlighted, and we are going to press Command or Control on the actual layer, so like so, and that's going to make a selection. Then all you need to do is go back to the original layer, which would be the actual image, and we are going to create a mask using that circle selection. Now if we hide the ellipse, and as you can see now, we now have a perfect circular selection of the subject. I've managed to get a bit of the white in our circle, but that won't matter with the next step. So before we move on to the next step, we are going to just rename this circle Alex, just for reference, and then I'm going to go ahead and right click on this layer and convert it to Smart Object. Then what I will do is I'm going to double click and I'm going to click one stroke, and I'm going to keep the settings as follows: size to 4, keep the position to outside, blend mode to normal, and opacity to 100. Keep the color to white. As you can see, that white outline now no longer matters. Okay guys, so now I just want to resize this circle. Now before we can go ahead and do that, we have a stroke applied. So if I just press Command or Control T, for example, and I just decrease the size, whilst holding down shift, as you can see, the stroke thickness remains the same. So we just want to scale this proportionately. So what we need to do is right click and then rasterize layer style. Once you've done that, you can now go ahead and press Command or Control T and resize. So let's just make this a bit smaller to something like this. And then I'm going to place it around here. So moving on, the next step will be to add in the Twitter handle. So what we will do is we are going to type in @Alex Hormozy. We're just emulating what a tweet would look like. So I'm just going to press T for the type tool, and I'm just going to click here. Then I will type in @Alex Hormozy like so. So that's all we need to do. And then I'm just going to now press escape, and we can go ahead and resize this. So let's just make this a little larger to something like this. So we are just going to keep it to around 15 points and then press enter. I'm just going to align this a little better. So we're using the arrow keys, just align it. And this is a visual thing. So guys, you don't need to be super specific with this. Just get it to what looks nice to you. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. So now we will go ahead and add in the verified symbol. Now I'm just going to go ahead and fetch this off of Google, and it's a very easy thing to find. Just type in Twitter verified symbol. Okay guys, so here I have an image of a Twitter verified symbol, which I just simply found off of Google. And I'm going to use the magic wand tool now and just click on the background, so the white background, press backspace, and then press Command or Control D to deselect. And that does a pretty good job. From here, we are going to press Command or Control T, and I'm just going to resize this now to something relatively similar to the text size. So let's just zoom in, get it maybe a bit smaller. Yeah, that looks pretty good to me. Let's just bring this a little closer to something like this. Yeah, that looks pretty good to me. Okay guys, looking good. So what I think I'm going to do now is I'm just going to change the thickness of the just to give a bit more contrast with the text. So let's just press T for the type tool. I'm going to highlight over the and we are using Helvetica Bold for this text, but I will change the style of this to light. Yeah, and then press escape. Yeah, that looks much better. It adds a little bit more contrast. Okay guys, so we've nearly finalized this thumbnail. What we need to do now is we need to add in the main text. Now for the purpose of this thumbnail, I am going to type in make thumbnails like this, with him pointing towards the text. This is just a good way to capture your attention. It's probably why you clicked. Maybe you just clicked because you like my videos, but if not, I've got you with the clickbait. So win-win for me. Okay, so let's press T for the type tool. Once again, we are going to click on our canvas and we are going to type in make. So make we're going to keep it lowercase, thumbnails like, and then we're going to make it caps like this with a full stop. Let's go back in and press enter here so that we have this on a separate line. And obviously now we just need to change the text. We're going to keep it to the same text we used for the handle. So I'm just going to highlight this and I'm going to go to Helvetica bold. Yeah, then press escape. Then we are just going to press Command or Control T and we will resize this right now to something like this, and then press enter. And so yeah, that's looking good to me. Now I just want to make some adjustments because it's obviously too close, the text to the finger, and I actually want this finger to point to this, the actual word this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the hand layer. This is the hand layer and everything related to it. I'm just going to highlight as well. So hold down shift and click on all of the layers relating to the hand layer. And I'm going to press Command and Control T, press OK. And then I am just going to adjust. So zoom out a little bit and let's just change the direction of this finger so that it's pointing to this word here. So let's just drag this down ever so slightly. We could probably decrease the size of this just a little bit to something like this. Maybe bring it up a bit. Yes, and then press enter. Okay guys, that's looking much better. So what I'm going to do now, the final step, will be to add a red underline underneath the word this. So let's just go ahead and do that right now. Okay guys, so here I have a PNG of a red underline. Now I found this on freeiconspng.com and I will link this in the description down below for you guys. So let's just go ahead now and drag this into our document like so. Press yes, make sure it's at the top. And then we are just going to press Command or Control T now to resize this. So let's just drag this down, zoom in. And let's just place this underneath the word this. So just keep resizing it until it fits nicely underneath. Maybe we can drag it a bit more to the right. Maybe we can rotate this a little bit to something like this. Press enter. Maybe we can just move it. Then just move it a little bit with the arrow keys to something like this. No pun intended, guys. Okay, so moving on to the final thing that I want to do before we are finalizing everything is I just want to add some shading behind this hand. So naturally there should be a shadow here because there is a hand in front of it. So it's just naturally how things would look. So let's go ahead now and make a layer underneath the hand. So just click on this, create a new layer, just drag it above. So it's above Alex Hormozy, like so. Let's just rename this to shadow. And I'm just going to press B for the brush. I'm going to click on the brush and we are just going to bring this to an oval shape. So adjust the brush shape. We are going to make sure that the hardness is set to 0. Let's also adjust the flow. So let's put this to 10%. And now we are going to zoom in. And with the arrow keys, you can actually change the direction of the brush. And let's just paint in a little bit of shadow behind the hand, like so. Then when we zoom out, if it's too strong, you can always go back in with the opacity and just decrease it. So let's put it to 0 and just gradually increase it. Yeah, I think 50% will do the trick. So that's before, that's after. It's subtle, but the little details like this really make the thumbnail stand out. Okay guys, so now we move on to the final step, which will be camera raw filter. So we are just going to click on the top layer and then we are going to press Command, Option, Shift and E, and that's just going to combine all the layers in the layer section into one layer. Then we are going to right click and convert to smart object, and then we can go to filter, camera raw filter. And let's now begin adding some adjustments and really bringing this thumbnail to life. Okay, so let's start off in the light section. So let's just adjust the exposure. Let's probably bring this up to 0.15. Yeah, that looks all right. Let's try and increase the contrast here, not too much. Let's put this to +7. Let's increase the highlights, because when you use a dark gradient, especially a dark gray to black gradient, there can be instances in which when you zoom out or from a distance, the dark gray simply looks black. So we are just going to increase the highlights to sort of avoid this. So let's just adjust the highlights a little bit to +7, and let's also increase the shadows, and this is going to help bring out the gray a little more. So as you can see, when we increase it, it brightens the dark values. Okay, that's looking good. Let's move into color, and let's just play around here to see if we can come up with a better color. No, I don't like any of the temperature adjustment because it's adjusting the color of the black square, so we don't want that. So I'm going to press undo on that. Let's increase the vibrance to +5, maybe increase the saturation. Yep, that looks nice. To +3, really does saturate it a lot, so we're going to keep it to +3. I'm going to go into effects. I'm going to increase the texture to, let's say, +15, increase the clarity to +10. And we might add a slight vignette. Let's see how that looks. Nope, we are not going to do that. We are going to add some grains, so put it to +12. Let's go to curve and let's make an S curve. So bring the highlights up slightly and increase the shadows to something like that. Let's go to detail and we are going to increase the sharpening to +20. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so let me just zoom out now. And I can see that the subject is too bright. So let's just go back into light and maybe decrease the shadows a bit and see how that affects anything. Let's just play around with these things. Yep, so let's just decrease the highlights to -10. Yep. And let's also remove the saturation. Again, guys, this is how you actually do things. This is real time. You make adjustments, and then if you don't like them, you can always go back and adjust them again and actually improve on what you've done. So let's go to color. Let's decrease the saturation. Put that to 0. Let's just keep it at that. And we can also maybe decrease the exposure a little more to maybe +5 should be okay. And then click OK. Okay guys, and here is the final thumbnail. This tutorial was quite a long one, but I hope you guys enjoyed it and learned a few things. If you would like to see more tutorials like this, make sure to subscribe to my channel because I will be posting tutorials like this weekly. Thank you very much guys for watching this video, and until next time, peace.